You are not your past, you are not your mistakes, and you are definitely not the person others think you have to be. Reinvention is not a fantasy, it's a decision to rewrite the script, take control, and stop dragging yesterday's baggage into today. This moment, right now, is your invitation to transform. But first, you have to let go. Let go of the guilt, the shame, the regrets, and the noise. Reinventing yourself isn't about pretending to be someone new, it's about becoming who you were always meant to be. So are you ready to meet the next version of you? Your past is not a life sentence. It's a classroom. It doesn't define who you are, but it does shape who you can become if you choose to learn from it. That's the first thing you need to understand on your journey to reinvention. Too many people stay stuck because they believe they are bound to their history. The mistakes, the failures, the pain, it loops on repeat like a song you didn't even ask to play. And because they've listened to it for so long, they start believing that it's their identity. But let's be clear, your past is not your identity. It's an experience, it's training, it's preparation. You weren't meant to stay in the same chapter forever. Think about any great story. If the character never changed, if they never struggled, never overcame something, what kind of story would that be? Boring, uninspiring, flat. It's the friction that builds character, the mess that leads to meaning. Every mistake, every moment you thought you wouldn't make it, every person who underestimated you, every time you failed or fell, it was preparing you. For what? For this moment. For the version of you who's ready to rise, to evolve, to finally say, I'm done living small. Now, here's what stops people. Shame, regret, the belief that they've messed up too many times. But listen closely. Regret only has power over you when you keep feeding it. Every time you replay the past in your mind and tell yourself, I should have, I could have, I wish I hadn't, you're anchoring yourself to a version of you that no longer exists. And you can't drive forward while staring in the rearview mirror. You crash, you stall, you stay stuck. But when you start seeing your past as preparation instead of punishment, everything changes. You realize that the heartbreak made you stronger. The job loss taught you resilience. The betrayal taught you boundaries. The rock bottom moments, they didn't destroy you. They revealed the parts of you that were ready for a breakthrough. Growth doesn't come wrapped in comfort. It comes through pressure, through discomfort, through the things you never asked for but got anyway. And now you get to decide what to do with it. Will you let it bury you or build you? You see, the most powerful people you'll ever meet aren't the ones who had it easy. They're the ones who've walked through fire and didn't let it burn away their hope. They used the flames to forge something new. They turned their pain into purpose. They stopped asking, why did this happen to me? And started asking, what is this trying to teach me? If you're serious about reinventing yourself, you've got to stop trying to erase your past and start embracing it. Own your story, all of it, even the chapters you don't like, especially those, because that's where your power is. You gain control when you stop being ashamed of where you've been. When you say, yes, that was me, but that's not who I am anymore, that's strength. That's clarity. That's freedom. Here's the truth. You're not starting over. You're starting from experience. That's a huge difference. You're bringing wisdom, grit, and perspective to the table. You've got miles under your feet, and that counts for something. You don't have to keep reliving your past. You just need to respect what it taught you. Let it fuel your growth, not hold you back. So if you're carrying around guilt, if you're still punishing yourself for who you used to be, let this be the moment you stop. Not because it didn't matter, but because you matter more. The next version of you can't be built with the shame of who you were. It's built with the wisdom of what you've been through and the courage to move forward anyway. Your past, it's not a curse. It's your training ground. And now it's time to graduate. Releasing the need for perfection is one of the most liberating things you can ever do for yourself. It's not about lowering your standards. It's about realizing that your constant striving to be flawless is actually the thing holding you back. Perfectionism is a mask. It disguises itself as ambition, but underneath it's fear. fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of not being enough. And if you're going to reinvent yourself, you have to stop letting that fear dictate your life. When you chase perfection, you're always in a state of not yet, not ready, not good enough, not successful enough, not lovable enough. And that state creates paralysis. You stop taking risks because you're afraid of doing it wrong. You delay progress because you're waiting for the perfect moment or the perfect plan. You rob yourself of the growth that comes through messy, imperfect action. Reinvention doesn't happen in a perfect plan. It happens in motion. It happens in the uncomfortable, unpredictable spaces where you show up, fail, learn, and get better. Your flaws, your past mistakes, your mess, those are the tools you're meant to use, not hide. They're not liabilities, they're blueprints. Every time you failed, every time you fell short, every time you embarrassed yourself, that wasn't the end of your story. That was the material life handed you so you could build something better. But you can't use any of it if you're still stuck in shame. Shame whispers that you have to hide, that you're not worthy until you're perfect. But growth, real growth, starts the moment you say, I'm done pretending. You are allowed to be a work in progress. You're allowed to try things and not get them right the first time. You're allowed to show up as you are and still be worthy of love, respect, success, and peace. Because the people who achieve real transformation, the kind that sticks, are not the ones who got it all right from the beginning. They're the ones who were brave enough to start when they weren't ready, to keep going when they didn't feel strong, to love themselves when they were still broken. So let this be the moment you drop the need to perform. Let this be the moment you decide that good enough is not about perfection, it's about alignment. Are you showing up with heart? Are you taking steps that match your vision? Are you learning and growing even when it's uncomfortable? That's what matters. That's the road to reinvention, not the filtered version of life you see online, not the highlight reel, but the real, raw, honest path where you admit, I don't have it all figured out, but I'm doing it anyway. There will be days when your old patterns show up, when you fall into the comparison trap, when you doubt whether you're making any progress at all. And in those moments, you need to remind yourself, perfection was never the goal. Evolution is. Reinvention is a process, not a performance. It's about waking up each day and choosing again, choosing your future over your past, choosing growth over comfort, choosing your truth over someone else's expectations. If you keep waiting until you feel perfect, you'll be waiting forever. If you keep measuring your worth by how little you mess up, you'll always feel like a failure. So instead, give yourself permission to be real, to be messy, to be bold. Reinvent yourself with all your imperfections in tow, because that's where your power lives. In the parts of you that are real, that are human, that are still healing, still learning, still becoming. This is not about being perfect. This is about being you, the most honest, resilient, evolving version of you. That version doesn't wait for permission. That version doesn't hide from the past. That version doesn't perform for applause. That version shows up, scars and all, and says, let's go. That's who you're becoming, and that's who the world needs. Not perfect. Creating a clear vision of the person you want to become is the cornerstone of reinvention. You can't become something you're not actively aiming for. You can't stumble into transformation. You have to build it day by day, thought by thought, action by action. It starts with getting brutally honest about where you are right now and just as clear about where you want to go. Most people never change because they never pause long enough to picture something better. They stay on autopilot, reacting to life instead of designing it, but not you. You're here because you're ready to create with intention. So let's start with the most powerful question you can ask yourself. Who do I want to become? And not in a vague general sense like, I want to be happier or I want to be successful. That's too soft. Reinvention demands clarity. You need specifics. What does that future version of you look like? How do they walk into a room? What kind of energy do they carry? What kind of people are in their life? What do they say no to without guilt? What habits do they stick to without excuses? Close your eyes for a second and imagine it. Picture yourself 6 months from now, a year from now, 5 years from now. If you really took ownership of your mindset, your habits, your boundaries, how different would your life look? That version of you already exists. They're not some fantasy. They're simply a reflection of your daily choices. But you can't become them if you're still dragging around an outdated identity based on who you used to be or who others expect you to be. This is where people get stuck. They hold on to old stories. Stories like, I'm just not disciplined, or I always mess things up, or this is just how I am. Those stories aren't facts, they're excuses. And the truth is, you're allowed to outgrow versions of yourself. In fact, you should. Growth is not about betraying who you were, it's about honoring who you're becoming. Now, once you have that clear vision, write it down. Literally, not just in your head, on paper, in your phone, on a vision board, wherever, but get it out of your brain and into your reality. That vision becomes your compass. Every time you're faced with a decision, ask yourself, does this move me closer to the person I want to be? If it doesn't, say no. Protect your vision like it's your life, because in many ways it is. The quality of your life is tied directly to the clarity of your vision and the discipline to honor it. And don't think for a second that you need to have everything figured out to begin. Clarity doesn't mean knowing every step. It means knowing the direction. That's enough to start. Your first step might be setting new boundaries, or waking up earlier, or letting go of toxic relationships, or facing the fear that's kept you stuck. Whatever it is, the clarity of your vision will guide you through the chaos of change. Reinvention is messy, it's uncomfortable, it will stretch you, but it will also liberate you. Because once you stop reacting to life and start creating it, everything changes. Here's the bottom line. If you don't define who you want to be, the world will do it for you. And the world doesn't always have your best interest in mind. So stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for the perfect time. You are the author. You hold the pen. Rewrite the story. Visualize it. Commit to it. Then show up every single day as if it's already yours. Because eventually it will be. Who you surround yourself with matters more than you think. Every single day, the people in your environment are either helping you grow or keeping you small. And if you're serious about reinventing yourself, you have to take a hard, honest look at the company you keep. It doesn't mean you need to cut everyone off, but it does mean you have to evaluate who reflects the future you're working toward and who's only a reminder of the past you're trying to leave behind. The truth is, when you're trying to level up, when you're on a path to becoming a stronger, wiser, more intentional version of yourself, you can't keep dragging people along who aren't on the same wavelength. Think about it. How can you expect to grow when the people closest to you are still stuck in the same old patterns, gossiping, doubting themselves, complaining, settling? That energy is contagious, and no matter how mentally strong you think you are, if you keep bathing in low vibration environments, you will absorb it. You will shrink to fit in instead of rising to break through. This isn't about being better than anyone else. This is about protecting your space like your life depends on it, because it does. Your peace, your mindset, your habits, your drive, they are all shaped by what you're exposed to every single day. If you're constantly around people who don't believe in change, who don't challenge themselves, who don't think outside their comfort zones, you'll slowly start to believe that's the ceiling too. But there is no ceiling. There's only limitation when you surround yourself with people who are afraid of expansion. Reinvention requires intention. That means intentionally seeking out people, energy, and environments that push you forward. People who are doing the work. People who challenge you, inspire you, and remind you of what's possible. You need to be around those who have already walked the path you want to walk, not the ones still talking about taking the first step 5 years later. Find the energy that matches where you're going, not where you've been. Sometimes that means being alone for a while, and that's okay. Silence is a powerful teacher. In the quiet, you get clear. In the solitude, you reconnect with your vision. Reinvention isn't about noise, it's about clarity. And clarity thrives when you're not constantly distracted by drama, negativity, or people who aren't ready to evolve. If you want different results, you have to make different choices. One of those choices is saying no to people who drain you, even if you love them, especially if you love them, because love isn't a good enough reason to keep someone close who's sabotaging your growth. Be honest, when you leave certain conversations, do you feel drained or empowered? When you share your dreams with certain people, do they light up or try to dim your light? That tells you everything you need to know. Reinventing yourself means raising your standards, and that includes who gets access to you. You are not obligated to maintain connections that make you question your worth, your direction, or your sanity. You are not required to explain your healing, your hustle, or your vision to people who only see the old version of you. People from your past may not understand the path you're on, and that's fine. They weren't given the vision, you were. Let that be enough. You're not here to convince, to beg, or to prove. You're here to build, and building requires focus, discipline, and boundaries. Say it with me. Boundaries are not rude. They are a form of self-respect. And if someone can't handle your boundaries, that's not your person for this season. Every level of growth demands a new level of alignment. That means aligning your circle with your calling. It means being mindful of the voices you allow to speak into your life. You become like the people you spend the most time with, so choose wisely. Are they pushing you forward or pulling you back? Are they clapping when you win, or do they get quiet when you shine? This part of the journey is tough, but it's necessary. You may lose people, but you'll find yourself. You'll find your rhythm. You'll find your power. And most importantly, you'll find peace in knowing that you're not stuck, you're evolving. The future version of you isn't waiting for everyone to catch up. She's moving forward with grace, focus, and purpose. Reinvention isn't about escaping your past. It's about redefining your future. And that begins with your environment. Choose people who mirror your strength, not your struggle. And when in doubt, choose yourself every single time. If you truly want to reinvent yourself, you have to take a long, honest look at your daily habits. Because reinvention isn't some overnight epiphany. It's built brick by brick with what you do every single day. Habits are the foundation of transformation. They're not just routines, they're votes for the kind of person you're becoming. Every choice you make in your day is either reinforcing the old you, the one you're trying to outgrow, or building the new you that you say you want. And here's the truth no one talks about. Your life right now is a reflection of your habits. Your mindset, your health, your confidence, your relationships. It's all been shaped by what you've repeatedly chosen to do or neglect. If your current habits are pulling you backward, making you feel stuck, unfulfilled, tired, frustrated, or confused, then it's time to stop romanticizing your routine and start rewiring it. You don't need to overhaul your entire life in one dramatic sweep. In fact, that approach usually backfires. What you need is small, intentional, and repeated changes that align with the version of yourself you want to step into. That means asking yourself, what would the future me do today? Would they hit snooze 5 times or get up and move? Would they scroll through negativity or read something that fuels their mind? Would they gossip and complain or focus on their goals with clarity and determination? This is where reinvention becomes real, because let's be honest, it's easy to dream about the new version of you. It's easy to talk about wanting more discipline, more peace, more success, but your actions will always speak louder than your intentions. Reinventing yourself demands that you match your behavior with your vision. That's why your habits have to be non-negotiable. Start with one anchor habit, one thing you do every day that brings you closer to the person you want to become. Maybe it's journaling in the morning. Maybe it's saying no to something toxic. Maybe it's walking for 30 minutes without your phone. It doesn't matter how small it is. What matters is consistency. Because consistency builds identity, and identity drives everything. When you commit to your habits, even on the days you don't feel like it, you train your brain to trust you. And that trust is the foundation of self-respect. That trust is what silences the old voice inside you that says you're not capable of change. Because guess what? That voice is lying. You are capable. You just have to give yourself evidence through action every single day. You're not going to be perfect. You're going to miss days. You'll get tired, distracted, or even discouraged. That's normal. But don't make the mistake of confusing a bad moment with a bad life. Reinvention requires grace as much as it requires grit. When you fall off, get back on. No shame, no guilt, just recommitment. Your habits are the pathway to your future self. Every time you show up for yourself, you're reinforcing the belief that you're worth the effort. And you are. The new version of you isn't built with massive breakthroughs. It's built through repetition, through showing up, through discipline, through doing the hard thing, even when no one's watching. So today, make a choice. Choose one habit, one action that reflects the future you, and do it. Then do it again tomorrow and the next day. That's how you reinvent your life. Not by waiting for motivation, not by chasing perfection, but by deciding that your future is worth building one habit at a time. Detaching from limiting beliefs and rewriting your internal dialogue is the key to lasting transformation. It's not just about changing how you act. It's about changing how you think, how you speak to yourself when no one's watching, and what you believe you're capable of. Because if your mind is still stuck in your old story, you'll keep reliving the same script over and over again, even when the stage has changed. Let's be honest, most of us walk around with a set of invisible rules in our heads. I'm not good enough. I always mess things up. People like me don't get to succeed. These beliefs didn't come from nowhere. Maybe they were planted by a parent who was too hard on you, a teacher who never saw your potential, a friend who made fun of your dreams, or maybe they were the result of a failure that hurt so deeply it rewrote your identity. But here's the truth. Those beliefs are lies. And worse, they're old lies, outdated, irrelevant, and destructive. If you want to reinvent yourself, the first renovation starts in your mind. Start by identifying the toxic beliefs that keep showing up on repeat. Notice the patterns. Are you always doubting your worth? Do you freeze up when it's time to take risks? Do you talk yourself out of big goals before you even try? That's not just the way you are. That's programming that can be rewritten. So how do you start rewriting it? With intentional, repeated internal conversation. What you say to yourself matters more than what anyone else ever says about you. You can have every person in your life cheer you on, but if your own inner voice is yelling, "You're a failure," you'll never feel like a success. The most powerful affirmations aren't just feel-good words. They are direct counterpunches to the lies you've been believing. If the old belief is "I'm not good enough," the new belief becomes "I am more than capable and I'm proving it every day." If the old belief is "I'm too late to start," your new script is "I'm right on time for my purpose." You don't wait for confidence to show up. You train your mind to create it. This is where consistency is everything. You can't speak empowering words one day and drown in self-doubt the next and expect to see change. Reinvention requires repetition. You need to flood your mind with so much truth, so much power, and so much clarity that the lies don't stand a chance. Your brain is always listening, and what you repeat, you believe. Speak like the person you are becoming, not the person you've been. Also, get intentional about your environment. Your beliefs aren't formed in a vacuum. Who are you surrounding yourself with? What content are you consuming? Are you hanging around people who feed your limiting beliefs or challenge them? If you're constantly exposed to negativity, you'll internalize that story. But when you place yourself in environments that reflect your potential, your mind will begin to align with a new identity. And don't be afraid to challenge your thoughts out loud. The next time your mind whispers, "You're not ready," talk back. Say, "Actually, I am. I've done the work. I've earned this." Train your brain to expect growth, not fear it, to see opportunities instead of obstacles, to believe that you are not your failures, your pain, or your past. Rewriting your inner dialogue is not about lying to yourself. It's about finally telling yourself the truth. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are not weak. You are capable, resilient, and ready. And every time you speak to yourself with belief instead of doubt, you're laying down new mental pathways. You're building the foundation of your next level. Change doesn't start with a to-do list. It starts with a thought. The thoughts become beliefs. The beliefs become behavior. And the behavior shapes your future. If you want to reinvent your life, start with the one conversation you have more than any other, the one you have with yourself. Make it empowering, make it honest, make it relentless, and then watch your life transform. When it comes to reinventing yourself, you have to make peace with setbacks. Let that sink in. Most people believe that transformation is this smooth, linear upward path, that once you make the decision to change, everything will magically align. But that's not how life works. Reinvention is messy. It's filled with bumps, detours, and unexpected turns. And if you're not prepared to turn your setbacks into fuel, you're going to stall out the second things don't go as planned. Every setback you face isn't meant to break you, it's meant to build you. Think about it. When you're driving somewhere new and you take a wrong turn, what do? You don't just stop the car and give up on the destination. You recalculate. You find another way. That's how reinvention works. Setbacks are just reroutes. And sometimes those reroutes lead you to something better than what you originally had in mind. But in order to use setbacks as fuel, you've got to change how you see them. Most people internalize failure. They make it personal. I messed up, so I must be a failure. No, you're not a failure. You're a person who had the courage to try something different and it didn't go as planned. That's all. Reinvention requires you to look at failure as feedback. Every misstep is simply information. Information about what didn't work, what needs to be adjusted, and where you need to grow. That's power. Because when you treat failure as feedback, you become unstoppable. You stop fearing mistakes and start learning from them. And when you learn, you evolve. Now, here's something most people don't want to hear, but you need to. Growth hurts. Reinvention will stretch you in uncomfortable ways. You'll lose people. You'll outgrow habits. You'll question your worth. And on the hardest days, your old self will whisper, go back. It's safer here. But your job is to silence that voice and keep moving, because the pain of growth is nothing compared to the regret of staying the same. The truth is, you won't always feel motivated. You won't always feel like doing the work. But that's why commitment matters more than emotion. You don't reinvent yourself when it's easy. You do it when it's hard, when no one's watching, when everything inside of you wants to quit, but you choose to show up anyway. That's where the shift happens. That's where resilience is born. That's how the future version of you is built, one decision at a time, right in the middle of the struggle. So what does it mean to use your setbacks as fuel? It means you stop seeing them as stop signs and start seeing them as stepping stones. It means you stop waiting for perfect conditions and start taking imperfect action. It means when something knocks you down, you get up faster, smarter, and more focused. You ask better questions. What did this teach me? How can I apply it? What's the next right step? And maybe most importantly, it means you start trusting yourself. Trust that you are capable, that you can navigate whatever life throws at you, that even when it feels like everything's falling apart, something better is coming together. Reinvention isn't about avoiding the pain. It's about turning the pain into power, about owning your story and writing a new chapter with bold, intentional action. You're not a victim of your past. You're the architect of your future. And your setbacks, they're just the bricks. Use them, stack them, build on them. Let every no, every failure, every delay, every heartbreak become part of the foundation you stand on, because the version of you that you're becoming, they're not afraid of falling. They're focused on rising over and over again. So go ahead, turn your wounds into wisdom, your stumbles into strength. That's what reinvention is really about. Not becoming someone else, but becoming who you were meant to be all along. You don't change your life in one massive leap. You change it in the tiny, almost invisible decisions you make every single day. The eighth principle, the one about staying consistent with small, powerful actions, is the backbone of real reinvention. It's not flashy, it's not loud, but it works. And here's the truth. Your future self isn't built in one big breakthrough moment. It's built in the quiet, seemingly insignificant choices you make when no one is watching. Transformation isn't about doing everything right overnight. It's about showing up for yourself in small ways, over and over again. When you wake up and choose to move your body, even when you're tired, when you choose to journal for 10 minutes instead of scrolling through your phone, when you drink water instead of grabbing another soda, when you read one chapter instead of watching one more episode, these are the moments where your next level is born. Consistency feels boring, but it's where the magic happens. Think about it. Brushing your teeth isn't exciting, but doing it every day keeps your teeth healthy. The same goes for your mind, your energy, your emotional stability. You don't meditate once and become Zen. You don't set a boundary one time and become unshakable. You do it day after day, moment after moment, until the new version of you becomes your new normal. The hardest part? Staying consistent when you don't see instant results. We live in a world that glorifies speed and overnight success, but reinvention doesn't work that way. Your life doesn't instantly flip just because you started a new habit. It shifts gradually, and then suddenly. One day you'll wake up and realize you're not triggered by the same people. You're not carrying the same baggage. You're speaking differently, holding your head higher, walking into rooms with more peace. But that only happens if you commit to the process and stop abandoning yourself the moment it gets uncomfortable. Reinvention is less about what you do once and more about what you keep doing, especially when motivation fades. That's why discipline beats motivation every single time. You won't always feel inspired. You won't always want to show up. But if you've already decided that you're becoming this new version of yourself, then you don't need permission from your emotions. You take the step anyway. And here's another truth. Small actions build self-trust. Every time you follow through on a promise to yourself, no matter how tiny, you're casting a vote for the person you're becoming. You're saying, I'm serious about me. I believe in me. I'm not backing down. And that builds a kind of quiet confidence that doesn't need to shout, it just is. People around you start to feel it, even if you never say a word. Think of your reinvention like a sculptor chipping away at a block of marble. One strike doesn't make the masterpiece. It's the hundreds, the thousands of small taps that slowly shape something beautiful. That's what you're doing. You're showing up, chipping away, removing what no longer belongs, revealing the truth of who you are beneath all the noise and doubt and old programming. So here's the challenge. Don't underestimate the power of today. Don't minimize the small win. Don't write off 5 minutes of progress as not enough, because those 5 minutes, they add up. They become 10, then an hour, then a lifestyle, and eventually a new identity. Keep showing up. Keep doing the work even when no one notices, especially when no one notices. Because you're not doing it for applause, you're doing it for your peace, your joy, your freedom, your future. Reinvention isn't a lightning bolt, it's a slow burn. But if you stay with it, if you keep stacking those small wins, you will wake up one day in a life that looks nothing like your past. Not because you got lucky, but because you were consistent. And that consistency, that's your superpower.